Alright, so this is my 1994 Mazda Miata M Edition. So a couple things about this car. It was built in 1994, obviously. The color is, the code is Montego Blue, or Montego Blue. I don't know how to say that properly. Anyway, there were about 3,000 models made, I think 3,000 exactly. What it came with was fully spec'd out Miata. So it's got the Torsen limited slip differential, electric windows, leather seats, the works basically, and obviously the factory hardtop was available. My car does not have a factory hardtop. I do have a soft top. Currently I have a black soft top. It was what was available at the time. I'm really not married to it, but a lot of purists think the car deserves to have a tan soft top, but I actually kind of like the way it looks on the car. So I'm just going to drive around a little bit. Right now I'm in the car washing area of my apartment. So I'm going to drive just around the block a little ways. Nowhere in particular. I basically just rinsed my car. I live in South Georgia and we were getting quite a bit of pollen already, so I wanted to just rinse off the car. So I bought this car in December. I got it for what I considered to be a pretty good deal. The reason I was drawn to this car wasn't because it was an M Edition. I wasn't looking for an M Edition. All I wanted was a 94 to a 95 Miata. That's really what I was looking for. And this one happened to be down the street from me, so I decided to talk to the guy that had it, and we were able to work some stuff out, and it actually was for sale for quite a long time before I actually did buy it, because there's quite a long story associated with this car and its history. Well, that sucks. The guy stopped shorter than I thought he would. So I'm sitting in traffic. Okay, so he needed to get somewhere in a hurry. So my car is almost completely bone stock. I've got a set of wheels on it and a little bit wider tires. They're 15-inch wheels. They're a set of alloys that I bought off my buddy's dad for like $100. And then the tires I have on it right now are a Hankook Ventus version 2, Concept 2 is the name of the tire. It's kind of a wordy name. It's basically just a performance street tire. It's not a track day tire. It's not a autocross tire. It's just for on the street. They're grippy for street use, and they have a really long life, and they're really cheap. So that's why I got them. A lot of people go with the Kumo Exta, and I decided to go with this tire. My dad likes the Hankook tires, and he's had a couple of bad experiences with the Kumos, so he steered me toward the Hankooks, even though I know people that have had the Kumos and been just fine. My previous car, I had Kumos for almost 50,000 miles, and they were great. It's a 205 tread width tire, so lots of contact patch, more than stock. I think they come stock with a 185 on a 14-inch wheel. The stock wheel for the M Edition 94 Miata is a 7-spoke type wheel. It's a 14-inch aluminum wheel, and it's polished or chrome. So it's pretty unique. I think it only came on the 94M, so it's a really unique wheel. And I actually do like the way it looks on the car. But these wheels were really cheap. They're a little bit bigger, a little wider, a little more aggressive, and I liked the way they looked on his car, so I figured it was worth a shot, and they were a really good deal, so I just went ahead and did that. I'm keeping the 14s. They're not going anywhere. I feel like one day when I put a turbo on it or something like that, it'll be fun to throw those on there and kind of go full stealth, you know, roll around and let people think I'm a stock Miata, and then show them what it's really got. So that'd be kind of cool. Right now I live in South Georgia. And I don't have any Miata buddies, so if anybody lives in the South Georgia area, hit me up. So, what was wrong with the car when I bought it? It had a leaky roof that had a couple holes in it, and the paperwork that I got with the car suggested that the roof was last replaced in 2004. So I bought the car like 3 months ago in December, so it had been more than 10 years on a soft top, and the soft tops don't last 10 years, so it was deteriorating. I thought I could patch it, just put a patch on the roof. That turned out to not be the case because the zipper in the back tore from the seam and was pretty much, I'm not going to say unrepairable, but it wasn't going to be worth the expense of repairing it because the top was so deteriorated. It would have taken a lot, and soft tops are really cheap, so I just bought a soft top for it. I found this one on Craigslist. It's like $400 for the soft top on the rail. It's a cloth top with a zipper glass rear window. And I went with this one because the glass rear window is really nice to have for visibility when you're driving. The vinyl windows are okay, but the visibility out of them is much poorer. I do like the fact that the vinyl window is much lighter. That's the one biggest problem, is when you put this roof down and you put this top down, the window is really heavy. That's something I didn't think about when I bought the top. So you have to kind of prop your elbow up and zip it that way. Otherwise, it's going to be too much strain on the zipper to be able to lower it. It does have these holes here, right here. I don't know if you can see those. That help you kind of keep the window up while you're zipping it, but it's a little trickier than the vinyl where you just whip the zipper up. So I bought the soft top. That was one of the things that was wrong with it. Tires, it had just awful tires on it. They were completely dry rotted, different shapes and sizes, and really terrible. And so then the next thing was all the accessory drive belts on this car were dry rotted. And actually, when the guy that we bought it from down the street went to drive it not 1,000 feet to my driveway, it slung an alternator belt. And so he stopped, and we pushed it the rest of the way down. So we put belts on it, accessory drive belts, and last month the motor started making a strange noise, so we put a timing belt tensioner. We found out there was a timing belt tensioner what was making the noise. Put a timing belt on it and a water pump because we thought it might have been the water pump. So I replaced all that and changed the oil and all the fluids and stuff. I'm still going to change the transmission fluid. I haven't done that yet. The basic story of this car is that it's a 1994, and the first owner barely drove the car at all. I don't know his story, but I assume that he might have bought the car for future value, not necessarily to drive it. And then a couple of years later, he decided he didn't want to follow through with that, so he sold the car. So he sold the car in 1996 or 97 with just over 2,000 miles on the clock. It was basically a brand new car. And then the second owner bought it in 1997. He owned the car until I bought it last year. So he owned the car for nearly 20 years, which I think is really cool. He drove it as a daily driver for the first, 10 years or so, until about 2007. He never drove it out of town. So to my knowledge, this car has never left Atlanta. It was bought in Roswell in 1994, straight off the showroom, and it's never been out of the state of Georgia, to my knowledge. This guy said he always had another vehicle, or he rented a vehicle when he was going on long journeys. The first guy barely put any miles on it, so I can only assume he never drove the car at all, anywhere special. So this car has really never been out of the state of Georgia at any point during its life, which I think is pretty neat, but kind of sad. This car's lived a really sheltered life. The previous owner really babied the car. He really took care of it. So the fluids were always changed on time. He has all the services done. He had the timing belt service done at like 61,500 miles, and you're supposed to do it at 60,000. So he did it. right at, right on time when he was supposed to. He really took care of this car, which is something I really appreciate. I wanted a car that was not beat to by a teenager. So I looked for a car that was kind of like this, but after 2007 he bought a new vehicle. He bought like a Toyota 4Runner or something like that, and he parked the Miata in like 2007, 2008. So in 2007 this car had roughly 79,000 miles on it, and right now in 2016 I'm sitting at 85,500 miles. So he kind of drove it still a little bit for a couple of years, but not as often. And then in 2010, I think, he completely parked it, put a cover over it. It was a wrap. That was the end of that car for him. So for whatever reason, he doesn't like to sell his cars because he thinks they lose value, which is, fine. But he kind of let it just sit there and deteriorate. Oh, this is totally a keep moving lane. Sorry, guys. So the car grew some mold inside of it, things like that. It just deteriorated. It got dirty. Branch fell on the top and tore the top. The paint kind of looked rough. So when I got the car, it looked like it was in rough shape. It hadn't really been driven in 5 years. It had been tuned up by my neighbor who drug it out and fixed it up. But the car hadn't been driven in 5 years, really. Not any substantial amount. It was pretty much just driven to keep a tag on it. They would take it to get the emissions done and drive it home. Miraculously, almost everything on this car still works. The window switches work well. I'm actually going to put new bushings in this one on the driver's side to smooth that up a little bit, but it works. The AC compressor works great. We put some Freon in it and it works. A lot of people say, why would you ever need air conditioning in a Miata? And I say to those people, come to South Georgia and I'll show you. It's hot and humid down here. You get in your car in the summertime and it's, it can be over 100, 110, 115 degrees sometimes in your car. All your stuff is just scalding hot. You can barely touch anything. So you throw on your AC once the car cools off a little. It's really nice to have on, even with the top down, because 95 degrees with high humidity, even with the top down, is hot. So it's nice to still have the air conditioning. That's pretty much it. I've done a shift knob. We painted the valve cover. My dad actually did that for me. New tires and wheels, new top, and that's pretty much it. I mean, we haven't done much to the car other than some general maintenance stuff. And I broke the gauge cluster hood one of the first days I had the car. I took it off to clean it because it had some spots on it from the mold. I was thinking about sanding it and painting it, and it broke. All the tabs broke off of it. My dad went to try to fix the tabs on the plastic and it broke in half. So it was completely useless after that, and really disappointed in that happening. I didn't know at the time how weak the gauge hoods were on a Miata, but I've since read about that, and it's a common problem that plastic becomes very brittle. So that's something that I'm going to try to replace. But another thing that's interesting about this car is it has stock everything. Stock radio, stock speakers. 2 of them don't even work. I've actually already removed the drivers to put in a new speaker, but I haven't put in the speaker yet. So that's pretty much my car. Like I said, it's a 1994. Has 85,000 miles on it, which I think is relatively low mileage, and it's a pretty rare car. There's only 3,094 M Editions, although they did produce Montego Blue and other iterations of the Miata from 95 to 97. They made about another 14,000 or so Montego Miata. So I think it's pretty cool. It's not something I aim to have, but it's something that worked out in my favor. I got a car that was pretty rare in the Miata world. They're not really highly sought after, but they are valuable if you can get one in the right nick. And this one isn't. It's not perfect. It's got some stuff that I still want to fix, but it's rust-free. It's straight. It's got some minor body damage from hailstorms and stuff like that, but other than that, it's a good car, and I am thrilled to be a new Miata owner. So that's pretty much it. And signing off.